Have you not listened to episode 6? It's my old buddy Jeff Bowdren. Download it, listen. Here's a sample. Now.
When we was talking to Mania last Tuesday, I talked about the things that when they pull back the curtain with me is when I'm standing in the dressing room and someone's insulting Lance Russell, and you're like, what the hell? What are these people talking? Lance Russell's the greatest announcer ever, and knowing that they were, they were saying that, you just never expected things like that to be said, but. I want to touch on really the interview that I like the most, and I don't want you to hold back when I ask you about this because I know so you don't even know what's coming because I don't usually do a lot of preparing here because it's better just to call it in the ring kind of thing. So here we go. My favorite interview in the book was Mick Foley. So tell me, you got to tell me what the hell happened here. I mean, hey, we're going to tell you how to get the book, but Jeff has all these great interviews in here, and then we have Mick Foley, which says not transcribed. So tell us what happened then.
Well, first of all, let me say the details of what goes into these interviews is
okay, good deal.
Sit there, I do a little prep work. I mean, I'm not going to lie to anyone, talk about I'm doing some sort of extensive prep work. My prep work usually consists of me remembering stuff, going to YouTube, and maybe calling one or two guys, John McAdam or Barry Rosen, going, hey, what the hell do you remember about this guy? And so,
yeah.
So anyway, but I'll write myself a little page.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's start the party.
I'm STS Studios for a new episode of Shootin The Shiznit. This is episode 64. I'd like to thank Bob McGee and Gene Jackson, my old buddy Gene Jackson, for all the work that they do getting the word out. You guys can follow us at Comic Book Mark BT or at BT Shootin The Shiznit on Instagram. Comic Book Mark BT is on Twitter. We have merch, tinyurl.com/STSPod merch. Go over there, buy something. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, Pod Paradise, Spreaker, and I want to thank Suplex City Limits, Creative Control. There's a new podcast. It's called P3 Radio. It's at Hulkshare/P3 Radio. Check them out. And check out, and we actually were mentioned on my favorite non-wrestling podcast, Who's Right Podcast. Hey, you guys have a great day and enjoy the new episode. Hey, welcome. I'm going to bring my guest on over here from the green room. He's been sitting over there eating milk and cookies or drinking a cold beer. I don't know. It's up to him what he wants there. And we have some secret stash, and we won't say anything because it's only legal in just a few states. But come on, Justin. I got Justin Potter here on the line. Justin, this podcast is about people I've known for a long time, or I bring on someone I really don't know and just want to talk to. And me and you kind of known each other. I think I was there for a couple of your live matches, and
probably so.
And you also used to read my newsletter when we had it, or the website when we had it out. But
love the website. You need to. I thought there was going to be a reboot. Did that happen, or?
Well, there is a reboot, but it's pretty much just for the podcast. So you can go there and look at all the old. I actually have the post up, so I still have all the old posts. I made them go back up, and then you can look at all the podcasts. We're almost at number 60, so you can do that and at least listen to yourself,
I guess. That might be the one I skip, actually.
There you go. I have a hard time. I do post-editing to this, and I try to listen to it, but it's the weirdest thing is it took me about 50 episodes to get to the point to where I could actually listen to my voice and say, okay, I've got people. When you have 70,000 people listen to it in 1 month, you think to yourself, at least you can listen to 30 minutes of your own voice. But
right. Make it worth it, right? Yeah, and I started in TV in like 2005, and I'm still not used to it. All the time, I'll go back and review my footage and stuff, and I'm just like, oh gosh, who is this guy? I was like,
all right, well, let's start now. Here's what we want to start with, and then we'll go into what you actually do for a living now.
Sure.
We're going to start with you as a fan. Now, when did you start becoming a fan, and when can you? You're a little bit younger than me, so
yeah, I'm 30. I was a fan at like 4 or 5 years old. I can remember I had Hulk Hogan underwear, and I remember pulling them up and like wrestling my dad like I was Hogan and he was whoever else. And then I would I kind of fell out of it for a little bit, but then I can tell you the exact moment where I picked back up, and then from that point forward, I've loved it my entire, the rest of my life. Was WrestleMania 14. My parents were big boxing fans, so when they brought in Tyson, oh man, my parents could, they had to see Austin and Tyson and Michaels, and and I've watched wrestling. I don't think I've missed a Monday Night Raw since that date, and then of course I caught up on all the glorious years I missed after that.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, we always have a moment where, like I said, I'm 20 years older than you, so your moment's going to be a lot younger. That moment brought a lot of fans to the product, and the best numbers that we haven't figured out. A lot of you guys are what's, that you in that time and me, we're sticking with it. A lot of them left, but for some reason, some of us are staying. A lot of people left, so the ratings aren't what they used to be. But,
right.
When the average audience, I think, is over 50 years old, it's kind of weird. But you lived out your dream. That's what I call it. That's what I did, too.
Absolutely.
I wrestled for 18 months, and I was absolutely horrible and quit. I was a manager, and I was a damn good manager compared to being a wrestler. But
my backstory pretty much goes with I wanted to do it, but I had a full-time job at Region 8 News in Jonesboro as a photographer, and it was one of those things that was hard to do. On top of that job, to train at least on top of that job. So the opportunity just kind of wasn't there. But then one day, randomly, we had Brandon Baxter, who I'd already met several times, just being in the local media in Jonesboro. I met Brandon Baxter and Derek King, which I had remember seeing, several times. And then I believe it was Simon from the Posse. All those guys came in the studio for an interview, and I was like, "Oh man, there's wrestlers here!" And so I immediately attached myself to them. I had to go talk to them. And Derek invited me to a TLCW show in Ripley, and so I went. And man, I was hooked. He let me ring announce. Actually, I ring announced that first night, and I remember going backstage. I had like a cheap Walmart suit on. And I remember going. It was at a baseball stadium, and I remember I went backstage, and I remember seeing guys like John Michael. And,
oh my God! Wait, I want to stop right here. I want to tell you a quick story about this damn show. So I do not go outside during the summertime. Okay, this show has something to do with me too, believe it or not. So I don't go to the outside. I'm fat. I hate the outside. Even when I was skinny, I hated it. Yeah. So they don't tell me that big show is at a baseball stadium.
Yeah.
They never tell me that. I don't know it's at the baseball stadium until I actually pull up to the show, go up there and say, what the hell? And Derek and all of them laughed about it and said, and the weird thing is you might have been in the ring with me when I was giving away DVDs and stuff. And the mic wasn't working. The mic wasn't working.
It's funny because the details of that show fuzzy all these years later.
I bet.
But I do remember like certain guys just really standing out. I remember Dustin Starr and Tattoo and Golden Boy and John Michael. All those guys just really were, I admired them, and I just met them, and I was like, I want to find a way to keep doing this. And so I did a few shows with Derek. I think the next one was a Jerry Lynn show. I think that was like the next week or something like that I got to meet Jerry Lynn, who I also really looked up to that. And so I was hooked, my first 2 weeks were instantly, I loved it. And so, I knew I had to train. So I found out.
I want to stop you just right. So I got a question for you. You throwed right in. Derek's good about doing that. But, now we went from being a fan to being, pretty much part of the business. You're a ring announcer, so you have access to the dressing rooms and everything like that. Did you see? My story is that I went to wrestling in Blythe, Arkansas, front row. I knew the business was a work, but I didn't know much about how it was a work.
Right.
So were you considered, internet still strong then? Were you big into were you a smart fan at that point? Did you understand?
I definitely feel like I was, and to give you a timeline of events, I'd actually met Derek on Beale Street after the Unforgiven pay-per-view they did in Memphis, and that's when he invited me to TLCW after the television appearance. So he recognized me after that, and so then so to give you, so it was like 2007, I think. So it was a definite, internet was definitely, I think I was a smart fan. I had an idea, but then to actually be around it, you almost you almost forget that it, you definitely get drawn into it,
Yeah, it's a different. And anyone that's never worked in a business, a lot of people that listens to this has worked in a business, and some have not. But you don't. It's a total different. It's hard to explain. It's a different culture. It's a whole different culture. There's things that you get away with behind the scenes that you would never get away with at any other job or sport. Name it. I mean, I've seen everything. Yeah. So, even being at a small place even makes it worse, I think. But there's a counterculture there that even any documentary or anything that's tried to capture that has never, in my mind, really been able to capture what goes on really behind the scenes. But you was through. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but you was through into this and you was a ring announcer, and we go from being a ring announcer to what do you do after that?
From after that, Ripley was like 2 hours from where I lived. I lived in Paragould, Arkansas, so it was quite the drive to make $10. So I looked for more local places. I found that Golden Boy and Jeff Odell were doing LAW in Rector. And so I found out a guy that I grew up with. I think he wrestled as Adrian Stratton. His dad was Steve Stratton.
I know both those I knew Steve very well. Yes.
Yeah. And I grew up with Adrian, so I found out he was working those shows in Rector. So I said I got to go with you one night. And Golden Boy and I expressed my interest to him, and I think I ran sound for him for a while, and then I eventually morphed into, telling him I was interested in training. So I started training at that building in Rector, and then Golden Boy kind of to get me in the ring more. His mind for the business. He knows how to set someone up for success. So his mind is to get me in the ring but not wrestle, so he had me ref, and I did that for a while, and he got me in front of some big audiences. I mean, it was reffing was honestly one of my favorite experiences of wrestling. Just that was my introduction to actually being in the ring and being part of the match.
Right.
So it was and from there I trained up and kept training and did some reffing for Golden Boy, wherever he was. I was kind of right there with him.
But did you eventually got to wrestle, right?
I did, yeah. a couple of years later, we were working in Union City, Tennessee with, what was it? It's Mid-South now. It was NWA Warriors of Wrestling Federation. So they were running in Union City. Golden Boy had this idea to have the Tornado, which was like the Union City school is the Tornadoes.
Right,
and
right.
He had custom gear made, and he just kind of says, "Here's your shot, kid," and gives it to me. And I was in a tag match against the EMTs. I won't display who they were.
Okay, all right.
But I do remember I was a nervous wreck. I was god awful. I mean, I was terrible. I was so hyped. I couldn't slow down. I was jumping all over the place. But the fans loved it because I was their hometown.
Well, you were a Tornado. Yeah, that's
yeah. And
here's
so,
the thing about it, Justin. I love what you just said because, there's guys, and this is true, that are still wrestling today in that area that are worse than you were in your first match, and they don't get it. So they didn't know they were bad. So
Right. I did, and I, being a video guy, I tried to video as many of my matches as I could, and I would watch and be like, this is not the stuff I see on TV. What can I do to get to that level? And I would try, but I eventually, I wrestled for about 3 years, and eventually I had a realization. Okay, maybe I'm not.
I'm not going to get any better. Yeah, hey, that's the same thing. I only did it for 18 months, watched my matches, and said, I'm just not athletically inclined to do stuff like that. Later on, was able to get 4 guys that were really good wrestlers and be able to, kind of be on their coattail as a manager. So that's the fun part of that. All right, we're going to lose too much time here, so just real quick, let's go into a commercial, and then we will come back and talk about what you do and all the guys that you've been associated with. So hold on just a second.
And she says, I wish that I could be like the cool kids, 'cause all the cool kids, they seem to fit in. I wish that I could be like the cool kids.
This episode of Shootin The Shiznit, what I want you to do is join us this Thursday, that's right, this Thursday, for the Cool Kids Countdown, the special edition. Yes, I will be joined by my regular co-host there, Lance Levine, as we count down. Well, you'll just have to wait till Thursday. What? That's right, wait till this Thursday for the Cool Kids Countdown. All right, we're back with Justin Potter. He's in the studio with me today. Justin, now what is your what we call it in business, your shoot job now?
I am, I guess by title, I am a photojournalist. Essentially what that is, though, is I shoot the news. Basically, I go out with my camera and microphone, and I make news happen. Or I don't make it happen. I go to it, I should say. And so then so it's it's an interesting career, nonetheless.
And is that what you were doing in Jonesboro?
That's what I was doing in Jonesboro. I without getting into too much detail, I was fired from that job. Actually,
you came to a mutual agreement.
Yeah, they wish me my best in future endeavors. Yeah.
All right, so we go. You get to kind of a dream job, exactly what you wanted to do. I remember seeing this on Facebook, and because me and you've been friends forever. You're living where now? Where are we at now?
Now I'm in Orlando, so I moved up. The way television works, it's all market size. So it starts out with smaller markets like Jonesboro's of 181, I believe, and then I moved to Fort Myers, Florida, and Fort Myers was like market 60 something, and then and now Orlando is like market 18. So the lower the number, the bigger market you're in, the more people your product goes out to. So essentially, though, Orlando is a hotbed for wrestling. So that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to be here.
Right, and you know, I've seen some of the pictures, and we just haven't really talked on Facebook, and that was one of the reasons I brought you on.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I knew that people would love to listen to the stories. You got really lucky, or just pushed to do it for yourself, being
mm-hmm.
able to work with the WWE in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it is almost luck, really. Even before I moved to Florida, I'd done like a freelance job with them where they were having a Monday Night Raw, and I took some pictures for them. Nothing really came of it, but it was a really just neat experience to get my foot in the door. And so I made some good contacts. And so when I moved to Florida, which is, you know, now, you know, with WWE, you know, they pretty much, this is their second home now. So
right.
You know, there's lots of opportunities here. So when my first big moment here in town with them was when they were announcing that WrestleMania was going to be in town, and that was a huge event. They had Vince, Stephanie, you know, New Day, Cena, Roman, you know, who they had them all there, you know, just to talk with the media. And my management at work, you know, knew I was a wrestling fan. So any wrestling related stories, they're like, oh, we'll just send Potter, you know.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah. And then that also, you know, if they put someone that knows about it, then they're going to come out with a better story, you know, as opposed to somebody who, you know, doesn't care, not a fan. So
right.
It worked out. Yeah.
So tell us, you've met some of the biggest names in the business, but we talked about some of the big stars that are currently a part of the roster, but
sure.
You know, instead of the way we usually do this Wrestling with Stars thing, we usually pick 10 people and, you know, just shoot it across. Instead of hurry up, kind of rapid fire this time, I wanted to talk to you about your life in general, but then spend about 15 minutes with us, just you telling some stories about some of the big names. You sent me 4 or 5 names, and I'm just going to start with the biggest name in the business, and you just tell us. You said you had a real good John Cena story.
I don't know if it's real good, but it was a embarrassing interaction for myself, actually. So when they did the announcement for WrestleMania that day, afterwards, we had 2 crews there. I was just kind of I was there as, I guess, almost like the reporter. I was there for the information, you know, answering the questions that everyone else had, you know, that works at my station, to try to help them understand the event. And so afterwards, we're interviewing, you know, one-on-one interviews with some of the guys, and I go up to interview Cena, and the first question I ask him, I think it was something along the lines of, are you excited because the Citrus Bowl had been remodeled since the last WrestleMania they did there, the Michaels Flair one. So it had been remodeled since the last time, and, you know, it was a dump before, so I asked him if he was excited to go to the new remodeled stadium, and he just stares at me, and he goes, I just answered that. Do you want me to answer it another way, or? And I was just like, oh, man. You know, and that super intimidated feeling when you have John Cena staring at you like, did you not just hear what they just asked? And I didn't. I walked up after, and so I was like, oh, man. And so my heart sank to my gut. I felt like an idiot. But I ended up talking to him for, you know, 10 or 15 minutes afterwards. And in fact, this was not like a public event. There were no fans or anything there. And I told him while I was interviewing him that there was, you know, a couple of young fans outside that really wanted to see him. And like WWE, they have some guys that kind of walk around with the bigger guys and make sure they're getting to where they need to go in a timely manner and things. And as soon as they cut off the interviews with Cena, they walked him. He insisted they take him out to meet those fans, and that was really neat. You know, he didn't have to do that. He could have sat in the back seat and went on to this next location, but instead, you know, he took the time to go out of his way to meet these fans, just because, you know, me and a couple of the other, you know, reporters told him, you know, they would love to see him. And I thought that spoke volumes about who he is. You know, we see it on TV, him doing the Make-A-Wish things, but this wasn't televised. This was, you know, a personal encounter he went out of his way to do.
That's awesome. I mean, you hear there is, 2 or 3 bad stories about Cena backstage, mainly about some talent in the sense that he didn't like somebody. But we always work with somebody we don't like. So but I've been told many times that Cena goes to these towns and rents a SUV and gets a bunch of toys and takes them to the hospital. And you don't see you don't see those videos. You don't see stuff like that, and that's what's made him who he is. So great story there. Now, who is one of the top baby faces and the top guy that they're pushing now, but probably gets more booze than anybody. And that's Roman Reigns. So tell us about meeting Roman.
And this was actually the same day that with the Cena story. In fact, I think it was the next interview after Cena. I went up to Roman, and it's WWE.com actually posted a picture of me interviewing him. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I saved it and was like, yes. But anyways, I go to interview Roman, and he I almost felt like these guys were ribbing me at first, because he goes, I was wearing a green polo shirt, and he just kind of looks at me and he goes, hey, it's not St. Patty's Day. And I was like, oh, come on, man. And he ended up, and this was right at the start. The Shield had already disbanded, but this was right at the start of his, singles career. So he was really starting to take off, and I thought it was neat at that, point in his career to be able to talk with him and just, and he was again a very, personable guy. It wasn't we often forget that they're just real guys with cool jobs.
Right.
And so, you're a little starstruck at first, but then, once you actually talk to them, you feel like I could hang out with them. It's strange.
Yeah, I tell this, but see, I kind of lost all that starstruckness. So I guess if that's even a word, but it's like, and that's not this. I don't want this to come off as us bragging, but my history is that I rode to the matches with Dutch Mantel, the Undertaker, guys like that I went to the matches with. So it's just like the starstruck. I as we say, mark out. I don't really know anybody I would mark out for except maybe Vince and
yeah.
And I probably would, just because
I would mark out for Vince.
Yeah, Vince is a businessman too, so that's another. I'm a big business mark, so that would be part of it too. All right, let's talk about the Miz. The Miz gets a lot. He's probably getting a lot of respect for his going out and having a real good match and always good on the microphone. So
yeah, I think the Miz really has started to take off over, especially when Talking Smack was on and he was just unloading. Man, like he was getting a lot of buzz then. When I met the Miz, this was at the Hall of Fame. I worked. So a little backstory. I had the privilege to cover all the WrestleMania events. I started with the Hall of Fame. They gave me tickets the next night to NXT. They had me passes for WrestleMania, and then Monday Night Raw, and then SmackDown the next night. So I kind of got to do that whole loop with them, and man, that was like a once in a lifetime opportunity to really, just kind of be there and be part of that. What stood out to me about the Miz, this was before him and Maurice were about to fight Cena and Nikki at Mania, and him and Maurice, they were so excited, like that they were going to be together in the ring. And I thought, and again, you forget that they were like genuinely excited to be together working. And I thought that was just the neatest thing, like to see this couple who have both, came up through the business over several years, are, just the twinkle in their eye to see them work.
That's awesome. And you see what happened. They got more than a twinkle in their eye. They got a baby in the oven now. So.
Right.
That's what happened with them being on the road together.
And he and that whole night with the Hall of Fame, was unbelievable, because I was right there on the red carpet interviewing anyone and everyone as they walked up. I mean, you name it. I talked to Sergeant Slaughter. I talked to Hacksaw, who I've had the privilege to work with several times, and then anybody you name them, and if they walked by me, they would stop and do a quick little interview, and man, that was really unbelievable.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun time there. And then I actually went to Wizard World and got to do a question and answer with Daniel Bryan, and he was just fantastic with the question and answer. And I actually asked him about MCW also. But you said that you spoke with Daniel, and you guys did talk about him working Memphis.
Yeah. When I met Daniel at a book signing he was doing here in town, I got to go in a little early because and talk to him. WWE, they weren't allowing on camera interviews, but they were like, you can have a conversation, whatever. So I got to get B-roll of him like talking to all the talking to all the fans. But then I had a little conversation with him, and it was really neat. He actually Chris Rocker used to always tell me he taught Daniel Bryan the corner backflip thing. When Daniel runs to the corner and backflips over the other guy, and then I don't know, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
So I believed Rocker, I really did, but I had to hear it from Daniel Bryan. So I asked him about that, and he instantly remembered Rocker and gave him full credit for it.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so we got news here on Shootin The Shiznit.
Yeah,
Rocker
and then we had again with Derek. Derek helped me a lot, and he said coming up in the Memphis area, or coming up at that time, he was really young. He said really helped him grow and moved his career forward. He said he definitely wasn't ready for a contract then, as far as like a main roster, and so he was thankful for his time in Memphis and for the guys, our local guys that taught him what he knows today.
That's awesome because Memphis seems to always get a bad rep and always did no matter what because but that MCW had a lot of great talent, and
man.
the number one being him, I guess, and I'm a big fan of his. And just like I said, fantastic talk with the fans, answered pretty much everything they asked.
Yeah.
All right, man. I hate to do this, but we're going to wrap it up. I appreciate you coming on. We may have to bring you back on. If you do anything big again, just message me. We'll bring you on and talk about if we do.
Yeah, I have a couple of things lined up with NXT in the somewhat near future. I'm doing ever so often they do these little fan access things where they let fans do the entrances and cut promos and stuff. And I'm supposed to attend one of those fairly soon and do a behind the scenes thing at the Performance Center. So I'm really excited about that. And I've got a couple friends that work there now too. So hoping to catch up with them. So it's really neat, and I'll keep you updated on all those.
All right. Hey, I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of Shootin The Shiznit. Remember, we're the best little wrestling podcast in the business. We'll be back here, same bat time, same bat channel.